A little bit about, what brought you here.
Okay, I'm a real estate lifer. I got my real estate license when I was 21 years old in 1982, and I sold houses for 2 years in Ithaca, New York. And I was also buying and selling investment property and renting it to students. So that's how I got into real estate. And I came to Manhattan after about 2.5 years in 1984, and I sold apartments here in New York as a sales agent for about 2.5 years. And then I was approached about becoming an assistant manager. So I was a selling assistant manager for a little over a year. And then there was a chain of events where the manager of the office left the company, and I was asked to become interim manager until they got somebody good, which has always been a standing joke throughout my career. And I was interim manager for about 6 months, then they actually gave me the title. And so I was, at a very young age, 26, 27 years old, managing about 50 sales agents in Manhattan. And after about a year and a half, I became director of sales of that company. We had 4 offices, I believe about 230 agents, and that was in 1988. And of course, there was very little training at a lot of companies at that point here in the city, and that was when I first developed a training program, not only for my office, but for the other 3 branches as well. And I became fascinated, way back then, about trying to help people. The minute I became a manager and was privy to the amount of money people were making, I just felt, oh my God, this is horrible. It can't be like this, all over the city or all over the country. I mean, when people talk to you about going into real estate, first thing they tell you, oh, you're going to make $100,000 the first year. And they still do it, all the time. And, when you start out in the business, you think, what's wrong with me? Everybody must be making $100,000, Am I stupid? And so many people struggle and not only do not make $100,000, but just plain wash out of the business. So I think if you watch me and anything that I do, I'm passionate about this because it really, really bothers me that so many people don't make a living. So I've been fascinated with this ever since I went into management, in 87, 88. I've developed training programs, rental training programs, sales training programs, several times. And I became very, very good at teaching the mechanics of what you do. And I thought I was a very good teacher, and I thought, my God, this is really good. And then as I observed actual results, I realized that all these things that I was teaching people to do, they weren't doing. And I got very depressed. And I threw up my hands, as I'm sure many people in management can relate to. I threw up my hands and I said, well, I guess this is just the way it is. You teach them, some of them do it, and some of them don't. And that's why this business, like most sales industries, are 80-20 businesses. 20% of the people make 80% of the money. And 80% of the people literally starve. There are thousands and thousands of agents here in New York City, in Manhattan alone, that make less than $30,000 a year. And the public doesn't know that. And management and ownership in companies deny it. They deny it. They say, oh, everybody here makes $100,000. And it's not true. So eventually I turned the corner. First bored, this is all I can do to teach the mechanics. Then depressed, thinking that I'm ineffective, to hitting bottom and having really an epiphany. And this really happened about 4 or 5 years ago when I started. The company I worked for was very large, 600 plus agents, I started going out to branches and sitting one-on-one, just like we're doing, for a half hour, 45 minutes at a time, and really digging in and trying to help a human being.
Right.
Not just talking at them, telling them what to do, but asking them questions, trying to find out what made them tick, what their belief system was about the business, what they were doing, what they weren't doing, and really trying to help them flip a switch where they started to believe in themselves that they could make a decent living doing this, that there wasn't anything wrong with them, that they hadn't been trained and either were supposed to get it or not get it. And I embraced it, that it wasn't their responsibility so much that they were failing, that we had failed them as an industry not to give them the wherewithal to make a decent living.
Right.
The mindset of most people is we've taught them. I sit with managers all the time for years and years and years, and some of the people watching this might laugh because you hear yourself saying it. I've told her what to do 4 times. What else can I do? I've told him what to do at least 3 times. What else can I do? Well, there is more that you can do.
Always is.
And when you embrace that as a manager, it's very, it's empowering because you start to learn again. You start to learn how can you reach this person. So right now, I even now maybe you can see I get excited about it. I get excited about it. I had a meeting this morning with 7 managers of a company. And I was all excited. They could see that. They even commented on it. It's like, why are you all excited, Greg? Because I love this. I love this. I love trying to impart what I've learned. And I don't know everything. No, nobody does. But trying to impart some of the skills and some of the truths that I've learned. So as a manager, you won't get depressed. You won't get burnout in the day-to-day struggles. That you don't have to enable people to help them make more money. That empowerment is the real answer. So